Okay, Lamar's going to throw the ball in over to Devin Williams. Devin Williams over to Michael Manette. Michael looks over to Devin. Devin fakes a little bit, shake and bake. Here we go. Oh! Devin Williams! Oh my goodness!
Hello everybody, welcome to New Mexico is a Basketball State podcast, hosted by me, Russell Lee Gurule. Today, I'm doing the 21st episode of this podcast, and it's been a lot of fun. And I think all of you that keep tuning back in, I appreciate all of you. Thank you for all that you do out here in the community, and I thank you all for going to games because I see a lot of you out there. And I'm going to talk about a lot of topics today. I'm going to talk about Mike Peake. I'm going to talk about some things that were said with ABC prep and things like that. So I'm going to get into that. That's going to be fun. I'm even going to talk about ProView. So this is going to be a good one. Well, first I'm going to start off with Mike Peake. And if you've been living under a rock, I'm sure you know all the details. So I'm not going to get really into the details as far as those things go, the real minute details. I'm just going to give you, my opinion on it. Basically, if you haven't heard, Mike Peake is a New Mexico State basketball player who's been suspended indefinitely after a shooting that happened on the UNM campus where he had shot Brandon Chavez, a UNM student, who had shot at him first. And it was quite a really bizarre, tragic situation that happened, and something I have never really seen before here in New Mexico. In fact, in college athletics, you hardly ever hear about any of this stuff. But basically, Mike Peake snuck out to meet a girl who lured him away, and she was in cahoots with 3 other UNM students. And this was the night before the UNM New Mexico State basketball game. And these guys basically jumped Mike Peake and tried to do malicious intent on him. And I think we can speculate that they probably tried to kill him because Brandon Chavez did shoot him. And this was over a brawl or a scuffle, however you want to look at it, at the New Mexico State football game that happened a month earlier. And so there's 7 hours of video that had been released to the news media, and there's video of the shooting, and it shows clearly that Mike Peake was getting away because he was getting ambushed by one student who had a bat, and Brandon Chavez was shooting at him and shot him in the leg. And Mike Peake had a gun, and he shot him back. Brandon Chavez apparently had stolen his gun. Mike Peake apparently legally had his. And it turned out into something pretty crazy, but it very much appears as self-defense. I mean, it's a gun-free zone. Brandon Chavez shows up with a gun, and he probably thought nobody else was going to have a gun. And then here comes Mike Peake, and he thought he was just going to be able to shoot Mike Peake with no problems. And who's to think that he wouldn't have gone up to Mike Peake after he had shot him and killed him? But I don't think he expected Mike Peake to have a gun and shoot back. And it's not surprising to me because Mike Peake is from Chicago, where people get shot all the time in Chicago. They almost had 1,000 murders this last year. I mean, that place is just out of hand. And so it's understandable to me that Mike Peake would have a gun. So basically, after that, a yellow Camaro with 3 New Mexico State Aggie players show up with a girl driving, and they give Mike Peake a ride to the hospital. They put his tablet, his gun in the trunk, and then it was later recovered and given to New Mexico State Police. And I guess the state police didn't exactly ask for the tablet until later, and the New Mexico State team got on a bus because there's no more game. It's canceled because of all this, and headed on out of town. And so they picked them up. And they got the tablet, and so now we got all this footage and everything else. And the only people charged in this whole incident is the UNM students, who basically, in my opinion, tried to kill Mike Peake. That's the way I look at it. Okay, basically they just tried to kill him. That's the way I look at it. I mean, they brought weapons to the thing, and Mike Peake didn't brandish one. It shows clearly in the video that he ran away. Now, there's people jumping and saying, oh, well, New Mexico State's out of control. Maybe they are a little bit. Maybe they are. Maybe they aren't. I mean, but people are acting like kids don't sneak out of hotel rooms at night. They're acting like they're all good little saints that stay in hotel rooms all across the country in college basketball. I'm sorry, I disagree. I think there's been plenty of incidents where players have snuck out of hotel rooms and done their thing, whatever that might be, and they just simply haven't gotten caught, or they simply didn't end up in a tragedy like this. And so in all fairness, let's just, stop the mudslinging because you're a UNM fan or an Aggie fan. Now, I want to reiterate something here for myself personally. I'm not an Aggie fan or a Lobo fan, so I don't have crimson-colored glasses or rose-colored glasses, I guess you would say. Either way, I'm just looking at as an observer that reads the papers sometimes. Actually, I don't ever read the papers, to be honest. I don't even watch newscasts. I don't even watch the news. True story. But the thing is that when you look at the whole thing, it just appears to me that it's just been completely overblown. Besides, not the shooting now. Don't get me wrong. Don't get your logic twisted. Not the shooting, but the other peripheral things that happened around the shooting. I see it as being overblown. Not the shooting. That is extremely tragic and shouldn't ever happen. But it happened. It happened. But to start hurling blame without facts and creating so much innuendo, Lobo fans getting on Twitter with gossip with nothing to research or nothing to investigate. It's just sad. Just please stop with all of that. But with this, I look at Mike Peake. I suspect that the DA is going to really go after him because he had a gun in a gun-free zone, and he basically made the gun-free zone look silly. It looked totally silly. He made it look silly. Brandon Chavez made it look silly. Okay? They made the gun-free zone look silly. They totally ignored it. I'm sure plenty of other people have been ignoring it. We just don't know about it. It could have all been avoided, honestly, if better decisions had been made. It looks like Brandon Chavez was a ringleader, and he was able to get some people who were insecure, who did not have the courage to say no to his plan. This is the bottom line. Insecure people, weak people, I might add, who did not have the courage to say no to his plan. And as far as GH and New Mexico State is concerned, it is going to be very tough right now because there's people calling for his head because of innuendo and everything else. Because bear in mind, the only ones who've been charged in this are UNM students. That's the facts right there. As far as handling it, I don't think anybody else could have handled it any better. I don't think any of you are out there prepared to handle it any better. You may think you are, but, imagine getting woken up in the morning and finding out your player snuck out, has gotten shot and shot somebody else in self-defense and killed them. Imagine that. What are you going to do next? What I see with GH is that he's been protecting the players' rights the whole time. And he has been watching out for them. He could have just handed them over to the police and let the police go to town on them, which is what they appear to want to do. But he's protecting his players. He's being loyal, and I understand that. Now, New Mexico State is doing an internal investigation, and we'll see how that all plays out. Again, a lot of people with rumor and speculation. But the fact is, there are 7 hours of footage of police cams and things of that nature that are out there with the news media, your mainstream media, private corporation news media, and we haven't had really anything come back other than stuff that the news media wants to sensationalize, from what I can see. So with this, I think it's going to take some time, unless there's more that comes out as far as the yellow Camaro and the 3 Aggie players who were suspended for a game for breaking team rules. They didn't break laws, they broke team rules, which is a totally different thing. And Mike Peake has been suspended indefinitely, and he's going to have a heck of a court case right now. Because like I said, I think they're going to go after him. Now, as far as UNM's response to metal detectors now, I have never seen a metal detector in the pit ever since the 80s, since I've watched basketball. I don't think there ever has been a metal detector. I'm impressed at how quick they got them there. That's pretty impressive to have that and all of that. But, you know, what's funny is the shooting happened at UNM campus and not at the pit. So I kind of find it interesting that they would do that. They would get metal detectors for a game against, I believe it was Prairie View. I mean, I don't know. Do UNM students have a beef with Prairie View? I mean, go figure. You know, it's just, I think it's an overreaction to the whole thing. It really is, in my opinion. I think it's just crazy. But like I said, I'm impressed at how quick they got the metal detectors there. They must have been sitting in a warehouse somewhere, you know, somewhere around town, because they got them in there pretty quick. And so with that, I'm going to move on to the next thing. There's plenty more as far as the Mike Peake situation goes. And I suspect there might be some more that comes out, and we'll just have to wait and see. But as far as I can see, it looks to me like it's handled as best as it could possibly be handled, given all the circumstances. And I hope people just chill out with the gossip, the rumor mongering, and all of that stuff, because frankly, that does nobody any good, and it just brings confusion. And eventually, you know, the truth will come out. So let me get on to the next thing. I am going to talk about ProView, APS streaming. And this thing has been going on for quite a while now. This has been a situation where APS athletic director Adrian Ortega has taken over, and now he has gotten a new contract for live streaming of APS sporting events. And it appears that ProView is no longer going to do these events, from what it looks like. It looks like they just couldn't meet together and make a contract. And so it looks like ProView is out. That's what it's looking like. There have been people that have gotten on Twitter and have accused APS of being greedy without anything to chew on or research. Again, it's kind of like the last take. They're just throwing stuff out there on the wall and seeing if it sticks, and then acting like everything's such a big disservice. I mean, if you have been paying attention when APS hired Adrian Ortega, he clearly stated he was going to try to get a new streaming contract. It's that simple. It was so early in the game, and he clearly stated this, and he clearly stated that he was going to try to do the best he could for APS athletics. It also, in a William P. Lang Journal article, better known as the Albuquerque Journal, it states that it's in the procurement office, and it stated from the procurement officer that they were going to get closer to a contract. It looks like Dragonfly might be the one to do this. Now, I'm not real sure if they're going to stream these games coming up in the Metro tournament, which is coming up a couple days after this has been filmed right here. But we'll see. We'll see how that plays out. But for ProView, it looks like it might be the end. What's interesting, you know, from what I've gathered, ProView apparently loses money on APS athletics, according to one of their surrogates, we'll call him. We'll just call him a surrogate. And they've been doing this for 15 years. So if they've been losing money for 15 years, then perhaps they just aren't doing it right. Perhaps they haven't gotten any better. Perhaps they're not going to get any better. And perhaps they haven't figured out how to do it better than the company, this Dragonfly, that seems to be the one taking over. And it looks like they've been resting on their laurels for 15 years. And now it looks like they might be done as a broadcaster. It looks like this might be it for them. I mean, they've never, as far as I can tell, have gone down outside the Metro to any other schools to broadcast on a consistent basis. Maybe every once in a great while. They didn't go out and spread their wings. They didn't go out and really promote or anything like that. I guess they thought this thing would go on forever. And now it just appears like it's going to be over for ProView. That's what it's looking like. That's what I'm hearing. And a lot of you, frankly, I don't see a rush to social media or even at the games or in public going out and saying, hey, bring ProView back. They're just upset because they can't see a game on streaming. It's kind of interesting that they're kind of like that, but they're just upset because other schools don't have streams either. At this time, Las Cruces hasn't had streams forever. But the thing is that this thing is going to be like this probably for another year until all the kinks are worked out. It looks like Adrian Ortega wanted to do something much bigger and have the revenue stream go to APS. Now you got some private corporation media people claiming that APS is now greedy because they actually want to get more money for their product. Isn't that interesting and kind of funny? But that's how they're actually claiming. So it's interesting all in itself because I just find it funny. I just find it really funny that APS would actually try to do something proactive. I mean, sure, it doesn't really benefit ProView and ProView's proclaiming to be an expert, but here they are losing money after 15 years, still losing money. So apparently they're not that great of an expert because they're losing money according to their surrogate. I'm just saying, if you're losing money at something, then evidently you're not doing all that well. Evidently you're not quite doing it right. I don't see people flocking there. I don't think, and then I get all kinds of messages, please get Steve Davis off the air. That's what I hear. I'm just a messenger. Don't shoot me. I'm just a messenger. That's what I hear, okay? Steve Davis, please get off the air. That's what I hear. Or ProView's trash. I don't hear anybody ever excited like, oh, I can't wait for so-and-so to call the game. I never hear it. Okay? That's just the truth. I talk to a lot of people message me and it takes me time to catch up with everybody. But the thing is that I don't hear anybody excited about ProView or running to their defense. I think they're just upset that they don't have their stream. That's about it. I don't see anything else happening. And they're going to go to this new product. Apparently, when it does go up, I think it is up. I'm not sure. There hasn't been an announcement. Now, APS hasn't really been doing a good job to communicate all of that, and at least a press release. So everybody has a valid point there. At least a press release to let everybody know what's going on. I mean, for me, it's not a big deal. Streaming's not a big deal for me because I go to the games and I do specific games. I have a specific schedule. But I know for a lot of people, you can't make the game or something like that, and you want to be able to stream it. You want to be able to watch the stream. I get it. I totally get it. So we'll have to see what happens. We'll just simply have to wait and see what happens because APS in that factor has been kind of quiet about all that. And that's kind of disappointing. And I hope they would do a better job of communicating to the public what exactly they're doing. But it also, I can't fault them for wanting to do better on their product and asking more for their product. And I think that ProView is should have had all these years to improve, had all these years to do many different things. And I guess you could say the chickens are coming home to roost now with them. So we could see the end of ProView. We could very well see the end of ProView unless they do things differently. They're going to have to now. They got competition. Welcome to the real world now. That's the way it's going. So I'm gonna stop with that. You know what? I'm gonna go and talk about the Lobos for a quick second. Okay, so the Lobos have been ranked, I believe, 22nd last week after the big win against Prairie View. And I gotta say, this is the most fortunate Lobo team I have ever seen in my life. I really it's amazing to me. This team. Now, remember, I'm not an Aggie fan and I'm not a Lobo fan. I'm just an observer of this. And frankly, the only thing I have in common with those schools is I have a few family that graduated there and they get my taxpayer dollars, okay? When I see them, I see this schedule and I go through it. It is just amazing that they're doing what they're doing. It's not really amazing, actually. I twist my words there. Basically, it shouldn't be surprising that they've got this record right now, to be honest with you, because This looks like the Dave Bliss scheduling playbook. You schedule a bunch of cupcakes. Remember that word? You schedule a bunch of cupcakes out there. You put a bunch of weak teams that you should beat, and you go ahead and you rack up this big number of wins. Your only clear, good, decent wins, it looks like, is St. Mary's and is San Francisco. I wouldn't consider Colorado State a good win. They were depleted. They only had 8 scholarship players. Flip the coin and do that for the Lobos. It's the same thing. Depleted Lobo team. What do you expect? You're going to make the same argument if that was the case. That right there, and then Wyoming, I think, might be a decent team, but it's a team that's below 500. Okay, and so in a way, you probably should beat them too, because they're having a down year. It looks like one of their best players is not there anymore and is injured. Again, like I said, it is such a fortunate year. You have the New Mexico State games canceled. One of those could have very easily been a loss. And so you don't have that. You just have these 2 wins, St. Mary's, and you have San Francisco. So, Tuesday, this is being filmed on Monday. Tuesday, they play Fresno State. So if they win there, great. Now, if they have a sellout, which I believe they have at UNLV, against UNLV next Saturday, if they lose, please don't start running stoplights, Lobo fans, and please don't burn down the pit, okay? Because I know how you are. I've seen it before. And so just please, just take this season with caution. Because it is kind of, they're very fortunate in my opinion. That's just the way I see it. Not a Lobo hater. Either way, it doesn't matter to me, okay? Because I'm not a fan. Either way, okay? If they won a national championship, I'd be great and I'd be singing their praises, if they did a great job. If they didn't win the national championship, if they didn't make the NCAA tournament, either way, I'm going to give my take. I'm going to give my opinion. Doesn't mean I hate them or not hate them. Okay, don't get the twisted logic in there. So, with that, I'm going to move on to another take, and this is ABC Prep, because this one I just thought I'm going to respond to, because it's just, normally I don't pay attention to these things, but, Dylan Chavez, who just recently committed to New Mexico State, he tweets out that, we're going to play at Ball Arena, home of the Denver Nuggets, and this is the opportunities that Brandon Mason gives us that you could never get at a high school, okay? And I'm sitting there thinking, that's a pretty big statement, considering I don't think you've ever played high school ball in your life, Dylan. I'm just saying, I don't think you ever have, okay? And, if you had played high school ball, you would have been with La Cueva, and you would have played in an NFL stadium at Section 7, State Farm Stadium, home of the Arizona Cardinals. And guess what? UCLA's Mick Cronin would have seen you play. How do I know? Because he was standing right next to me while I was taking pictures and video of La Cueva at Section 7. That's something that ABC Prep couldn't offer. I mean, I'm just saying, please don't tear down high school ball just to prop up something else, because if you have to do that, then maybe your product's not as valuable as you think it is. I mean, let's be honest here. Will ABC Prep ever play in a 15,000-seat arena full of fans cheering for you? I mean, I don't know. I mean, do people watch grind session games? Do they show up to watch grind session games? Do they have a state tournament thing like that? I mean, again, I don't know. You never see that stuff online, so who knows? And as far as I see it, it's just kind of degrading, and it gets tiresome. And to be honest, I've never seen you play. I've seen you at tournaments and camps, because I was there and I was covering, but I've never seen you actually play, because you were always in a warm-up suit, and I always wonder what that was all about. You were always in a warm-up suit, and I don't know, it just seems kind of prima donna-ish. I'm not picking on you, and I wish you the best of luck in New Mexico State, but I mean, when ABC Prep came on the scene, and just going to throw this out here because I noticed this. a lot of offers seem to have dropped. I mean, before ABC Prep, we had like 20 plus kids going all over the place, from community college to Division II, Division I, NAIA. It didn't matter. They were going all over the place. They really were. And then ABC Prep comes along, and it just seems like it's just depleted. It's just kind of dropped, and it's just kind of weird. And, you know, sure, there's some kids on ABC Prep that get some offers, but they never commit. I mean, like, what's that all about? I mean, why aren't you committing, you know? But then I find out, you know, you're being told not to sign with Eastern New Mexico or Western New Mexico or Highlands, who knows, just so you could play post-grad, so you could get a D1 scholarship. I mean, I'm hearing a lot of that, and I've verified that. Several players have told me that stuff. I mean, come on, really? You're going to tell ABC Prep, you're going to tell kids not to sign with Eastern New Mexico or these other schools, and you want them to play for your post-grad school? You're going to deprive them of a legitimate opportunity for post-grad, which is kind of a hope and a prayer right now. You know, once you get post-grad, it's kind of over. To be honest with you, it's kind of over. And so that's kind of disappointing. And again, I have no problem with ABC Prep and what they do. It's another aspect of the basketball community. But I mean, honestly, you know, you're going to do stuff like that. I mean, post-grad should be for you know, players that haven't gotten that offer, that don't have it on the table, that need something. You know, that's really what it should be about, and it's sad to see that, but you know, I mean, I'll give you this, you know, you're able to get the Pitt, ABC Prep, you're able to get the Pitt where others don't seem to be able to get it. I mean, people ask me all the time, well, how do you get the Pitt? And I'm like, I don't know, ask ABC Prep. I guess they got a hookup at the Pitt. I guess they got a hookup somewhere in the athletic department because they're able to get it. I mean, I don't know. You know, don't ask me, ask them. You know, how are they able to pull that off? I'm just saying, you know, how does that happen? How did they do that? Anyways, with that, I mean, I wish you luck, Dylan Chavez, okay? Because you got a lot to prove. You've got a lot to prove. I mean, you did a lot of social media, and it seems like you're better at social media than you are at basketball, because we hardly ever saw you play, man. So please, just you know, focus on your game. Forget all the other promotion stuff and get better, and then make us proud. That's all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying, man. Just focus on the game. Play basketball. All you need to play basketball. Just play basketball. Get better and take what you can get and be grateful for what you have. That's all I'm saying. Now, with that, I'm going to move on to my second part of this podcast. I'm going to talk about, you know, top 5A teams and 4A teams and how they're doing, and some players that I like and that I've seen kind of rise up, and people that I've noticed, okay? And so we're going to talk about that. So stay tuned for that here in a couple seconds, all right? Thank you. Okay, so we are back now with the final take of the podcast. I'm going to go over the 4A and 5A teams and see how they're doing. This podcast is being shot on Monday, and the Metro tournament starts on Tuesday. So a lot of things can change between now and when this thing is up on social media. But I'm just going to get right into it. A lot of action has happened. There's a big log jam in 5A. I'm going to start with 5A. And I'll just start with Volcano Vista. They're still number one in my book. They're very efficient. They've won a lot of games by some close margins. They've beaten La Cueva by 3 points. Carlsbad by 7 points. So they're really making the plays to get over the hump. Sean Alter and Kenyon Agueno have been really solid for them, and they just keep on rolling. David Gutierrez has been hitting outside. So this squad is definitely still rolling strong. They still got a winning streak going on from last year as far as the high school basketball season is concerned, NMAA season. So definitely, let's just keep on watching and enjoying what they're doing. Let's see what they come up with by District 1. And then, we'll move on to the second one, Atrisco. Atrisco is still doing really solid. Their only loss is to Sandia, and they have a nice group going on. Latavius Morris and Chris Parra are just a dynamic guard duel, and they're scoring a lot of points, and they are just really, really tough to beat, and they're doing a lot of great things. And this is another team that I think is going to be in the state final, and so we'll see how they do in the Metro. Let's see if they meet up with Volcano Vista for the championship game, which is going to be on January 7th on Saturday, and that's going to be at Trisco, I believe, the championship site. And my next one, number 3, is Oregon Mountain. Oregon Mountain is for real, like I've been saying. Oregon Mountain with Brandon Quirez and also Marion Bynum has been really, really solid. This group has got a full team effort. They're playing like a team. They've beaten Hobbs. They've won the Hub City tournament in Belen, which also had Las Cruces. And they've also won the Hobbs Holiday Tournament. And so now we got to really start taking them seriously. This is a group that's going to possibly win the district down there in Las Cruces. They're going to have a challenge, though, with Alamogordo. Las Cruces, of course, is always going to be there. Mayfield could get hot, and so could Centennial and Gadsden. So definitely keep an eye on them. But I do see them in the state tournament. They haven't lost to anybody except for Volcano Vista. So this is definitely a group that is rising above the rest. Now, my next one is Los Lunas. I mean, this team right here has just been pretty solid, winning a lot of games, and they're doing it as a team, very structured team. Jalen Holland, who I think is the player of the year in running right now, can turn it on and off and scoring a lot of points and doing a lot of great things. And he's also got Ezra Guest, and he's got Jaleo Griego, and I hope I'm saying that right. He's beginning to rise and be that third scorer for them, and he's another reason for their success. So this is really exciting to see what Los Lunas can do. It's kind of surprising because I wasn't really sure, how they would be during the summer and what they'd be able to do during the season, but they're looking really good right now. And my next one, I had to it was kind of like a coin flip, a coin toss, if you would say. I kind of thought maybe La Cueva or Sandia, and I decided to go La Cueva, with La Cueva this week because they seem to be really gelling right now. They had some losses in the summer with their head coach, Brian Joyce, moving on, and Daniel Jacobson, the big 7-footer, has moved on to the preps in South Carolina. But now they have Daniel Lovato stepping up and really doing some nice things, and he's getting a lot of boards and a lot of buckets in the paint, and that's what you need to win ball games. They also have Isaiah Denaclaw, who's hitting a lot of threes. In fact, the last game I saw him hit 4 or 5 threes against Del Norte. And then you have JoJo Goliford, who's really running the point well for them. And they also have Cam Dyer, who's beginning to exert himself, and he's doing really well on the fast break. And Cedarius Yates, of course, is always there, and he's going to be a threat to score at any time on the court. So La Cueva is definitely a threat. This is a team that could possibly move up into my top three right there, overcome Oregon, and also possibly overcome our Trisco. So this is definitely a team to watch out for sure. And then you have Sandia. Sandia, I mean, what can you say? Dalen Moyer has really stepped up. Andrew Hill has become a lot more efficient, and he's beginning to get into the conversation as far as a player of the year. I think he's going to have to do a lot more to do that. I think he's going to have to be hit more shots and do more things that way. And I think he can definitely really solidify himself in that conversation. Eli Lovato's running the point very well over there for Sandia. And so this is a team that their only losses are Volcano Vista, from what I believe. I have to double check. But they've had some really close games with Volcano Vista, but I kind of look at that as, both their coach and Volcano Vista coaches, the Brown brothers, they know each other, and these groups spend a lot of time together, so they kind of know each other, that familiarity that kind of gives them that that advantage. And so I like to see how they would do against other teams, or especially La Cueva if they get the chance. So that'll be exciting to see. And we'll see if they can overcome a few things. But that five or six right there is really solid, and any one of them can win the state championship in my mind right now. All 5 or 6 of them have a chance to do it for sure. I think it'd be safe to pick any of them in the semifinal of the state tournament. I'm gonna look at my cheat sheet. There's some others here that you could also consider: El Dorado, West Mesa, and Cleveland. Daniel Steverson of Cleveland is also a very top player, and he's doing some big things. And it looks like they have another player stepping up in Nick Trujillo, who had a last-second shot against Santa Fe. So Cleveland looks to be kind of peaking a little bit now into district, and we'll have to keep an eye on them and see if they can reel off a win streak and get some wins over Trisco and Volcano, and definitely get into that conversation. I mean, like I said, it's a logjam right now. West Mesa is another one that could be a threat. I think they have to buy in with their whole system right there. And once they do that, I think they'll get really efficient and really start playing some really good ball and get a win streak going. And so for 5A, I kind of see all of that happening right now. There's plenty of more teams like Hobbs, who's going to be in the Metro tournament, Michael Mackey, and then Abraham Pena, the sophomore, is really shooting lights out and averaging double figures for his sophomore year over at Hobbs. So that's an interesting team that if they mature a little bit and they start to gel some more, I think they could also be a threat at state tournament. You got Rio Grande, which is kind of a surprise, but they've done some interesting things. They've been able to beat some people, and they got a nice lineup with Santiago Gonzalez at 6'6", and they also have Jordan Lopez, who's hit 1,000 points for his career at Rio Grande, and Jonathan Lukesh. So this is another team that could be a dark horse coming into the state tournament, and it's just a matter of district. I think there's a possibility they could win that district. We'll see what happens, though. And then, of course, Las Cruces, Caleb Carr is looking really nice. He's beginning to drive a little bit and show a little bit more of his game. And you also have Bird Navarez stepping up. He's the brother of Sal Navarez, who played for Cruces a couple years ago. And you also have Shug Velez, and you also have David Cruz. This group right here is beginning to gel a little bit. You can kind of tell. It's just a matter of time. And we'll see how they do against Oregon Mountain in that district. So that should be a war down there in Las Cruces. And, I look at the cheat sheet and really... there's a few others that are dark horses, but I got to see some more. They got to get some big wins. It's about winning, and you got to beat some people to really, really start to get noticed, especially by all of us in the hoop community who watch and follow basketball in New Mexico. And so with that, I'm looking at top five in 5A, and it still looks kind of the same. You're seeing Oregon Mountain and La Cueva move up and beginning to rise up. It makes some noise, and Los Lunas is a bit of a surprise, but they're moving up, and that's a good thing for them. And then Cleveland's beginning to gel, Sandia, West Mesa. So we'll see how they do, and we'll just have to see what it looks like after the Metro, and then about halfway into district when I do the next show and I start doing some predictions for the state tournament. Now, 4A is kind of interesting. There's not a log jam like there is in 5A, where everybody's got like a 7-3 record, 7-4 record. In 4A, you got Del Norte with Shane Domas Sanchez dropping 32 points a game, and I have them at 1 right now because I feel like they're doing some really good stuff on defense, and there's a few other people beginning to rise up and beginning to take some roles and take some of that scoring burden off of Shane. So we'll see if that continues to happen. If it does, I think they could get to the semifinals of the state tournament. I think they could possibly get more. We'll see. You just gotta watch, really, see what happens there. It's all about their maturity and what they do. And Highland, who's my number 1 pick in preseason, has now come back from their injuries and disciplinary reasons, and they went through a little rough stretch. But let's see how they do in the Metro and see how they pull things off. They're a very talented team. They're a very good shooting team. And their district, they play against Valencia and other people like that. They're no longer in District 6. So I think they should be able to win that district against Belen and those folks. And so I think they'll be a top seed in the state tournament. I can see that. And I still confident at having them around number 2, number 1. I only have them at 2 right now, and Del Norte ahead of them because they're just now getting back in sync from all the things that had just happened. And Academy is another one that I saw against the Trisco. I have them at 3 right now. I think this team is a very physical, tough team and can really get on a roll from outside. Joe Jack looks like a really nice player. You have Kellen Gires. He's another one that's really aggressive, and you have a team that has about 3 or 4 guys there that are able to shoot from outside, and they're able to play some defense and really make things happen for that group. And I see them coming up and definitely challenging Highland and Del Norte for a potential to state title this year. And my next one is Lovington. This group right here is they're doing better. They're really improving. They have a nice record right now. They have Julian Arroyo, who is showing a lot of nice things from outside and inside as a guard, and he's an intriguing prospect. And I think he's going to be one of the next really good guards. He's a junior now that is coming up there in eastern New Mexico, and he's definitely one that college coaches should probably start taking a look at, and if he has a solid summer, he could really go somewhere. I like their team so far. It looks like they could do well in district, and they're another one that I think we could definitely see in the quarterfinal or the semifinal in the state tournament. We'll see how far they go. Their schedule is not quite as tough as far as district compared to District 6, where Academy has to go through Hope and Valley and people like that. But we'll see how they do. And my 5th one is St. Pius. St. Pius is got Brian Kolb, and they're beginning to gel now, and they're beginning to find themselves. I picked them number 2, and we'll see if they can match that. I have some confidence in them. It looks to me like they're really beginning to play some good basketball now. They've had some close losses and they've had some tough ones, but I think they'll be good in district, and I think that they'll be able to definitely challenge for district and also be one of those teams like Lovington and get to that quarterfinal, semifinal. So definitely keep an eye on them. I think they'll definitely improve. They had some injuries before the season, and so that's what's kind of set them back. Now, Pewaukee Valley is another one I've been looking at, and it's the schedule really for me. I think they need to. I got to see them in district to see how they do and see how they start to play in district and see whether they dominate that before I feel more comfortable to move them up. But I think they're another one that could definitely get some upsets. They look like a potential upset team. And they have Derek Sanchez, a really, really nice guard, doing some really, really nice things. He's another really nice guard up in northern New Mexico. Gallup is another one that's beginning to develop a winning record, so keep an eye on them. Artesia with Nick Sanchez. This is another group that had a nice win against Cleveland, which was somewhat surprising, given that they were struggling for a while there in the beginning, and a lot of coaches had them in the top 5. So it looks like they're beginning to build towards that top 5 echelon. So we'll see how they do in district. Again, a lot of this has to do with district and how they do. I don't just throw things out there. I like to see how they do over time and see if they develop a pattern of winning in that. And when you start to win, it usually shows that you're gelling. And that's one thing I like to look for in a lot of these teams. And so, there's some others like Valencia that plays really hard. They just kind of been struggling. It could be the other way. So we'll see how they do in district. there's a few teams that could be dark horses. I look at Artesia right now as a dark horse. I look at Valencia as a dark horse. Hope Christian High School has got Jet Wyckoff, who's gangbusters from 3-point land. And they had a couple tough losses at the Rio Rancho Holiday Tournament. They lost one at the buzzer, but it's district time. I think they could knock off Academy, and I think they could probably knock off Del Norte on the right night, and they could definitely start to get in there and possibly win District 2. It's just a matter of gelling again. It's just a kind of a wait and see. I don't like to just throw things out there, but they're another one that you got to keep an eye on. And you got some others like Kirtland Central, Bloomfield up in Four Corners area, and we'll see how they do. There's some other teams too that that have come up a little bit, and there's Farmington in 5A, and you also have Carlsbad that has struggled. They've lost a lot of close games by a couple points, and they're another dark horse team. So there's a lot of dark horse teams. And Farmington, of course, and Carlsbad are in 5A, and just kind of going through that vine right now. There's some also players that are doing really well, but their teams aren't doing so hot. You got Taos's Damien Eli. Right now they got a losing record, and he's averaging 29 points. But, it's just a matter of finding some other guys that are willing to step up, fill roles, and take the scoring burden off. Then you got Alex Alfaro, who's doing double figures right now, and Deming struggling a little bit. But they've also had a 5A schedule before district, so we'll see how they do in 4A, because they just moved down from 5A to 4A, and we'll see how they do in the 4A district that they're in. And we'll see if they can pull some things out and get to the state tournament that way. They're another dark horse, even though their record doesn't show it right now. We'll see how they do, but Alex Alfaro is definitely a Player of the Year candidate. So looking through all of this, there's a lot of dark horses. There's a lot of teams that could go on a winning streak, and it's all going to happen in district. But I think the jumping point right now is the Metro tournament and see how people do there. You have Santa Fe in the Metro this year. You have Hobbs in the Metro. Things have changed up a little bit. You also have Hope in the Metro tournament. Any one of these teams, it looks like to me, can, if they get hot and they get on a winning streak, they can win this thing. And it could really catapult their season forward. It's all about gelling together, getting efficient, and then just having that aha moment like I talked about last year. So with all of that, I think I've covered all the teams right now. Nothing really too major going on other than the people we've expected to do well are doing well. And there's a few teams that have been somewhat of a surprise. It looks to me like we've got a lot of competition this year. It's very well balanced, like I said earlier, about a month ago. And I think it's going to stay that way for a little bit until we get to around the end of February and get really close to March. That's when we're really going to find out who the best teams are. So with that, I thank you all for tuning in. I want to leave you this tip. Good shots are much easier and effortless than bad shots, which are always hard, and they suck your energy up, and they just hurt your team, and everybody hurts when you take a bad shot. So always be looking for a good shot, because they're effortless and they make everybody happy. And with that, I thank you for watching. I thank you for playing, and we'll see you on the next episode. Have a great night.